The man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students is due to enter a plea in court this morning. A grand jury indicted Bryan Kohberger last week on 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. And prosecutors are accusing the 28-year-old of breaking into an off-campus house and stabbing 4 people to death, including Gayle Gonzalez, 6 months ago. Lilia Luciano has more now from the Gonzalez family, who spoke to 48 Hours last week about the case. She is at the courthouse now in Moscow, Idaho for us. Lilia, good morning.
Hey, Tony, good morning. In just a few hours, the accused killer is expected to enter into that courthouse and plead not guilty. Also, several of the family members of at least one of the victims will also be there. They say they hope today marks the first step in some semblance of justice for their murdered children. After more than 4 months, Bryan Kohberger will again face an Idaho judge to answer for allegedly killing 4 University of Idaho students.
He knows, what he did to our daughter.
The family of 21-year-old victim Gayle Gonzalez plans to be there. Her parents, Christy and Stephen Gonzalez, spoke to 48 Hours.
He's going to feel all of us just staring at the back of his head because he won't even turn around.
Prosecutors accuse him of entering an off-campus home in the early morning hours of November 13th last year, where he allegedly stabbed Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin multiple times with a large military-style knife.
It was likely all 4 victims who were asleep during the attack.
Nearly 7 weeks after the killings, police arrested the suspect at his family's home in eastern Pennsylvania. Among the evidence prosecutors have cited are traces of DNA matching him from a knife sheath like this one at the crime scene. And also surveillance footage of a vehicle repeatedly driving past the student's home the night of the murders. The car, a white sedan similar to one Kohberger owned. At the time of the killings, he was a PhD criminology student at Washington State University, living in Pullman, Washington, about a 15-minute drive from the crime scene.
The big question here, of course, is motive.
CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson says that despite there being strong evidence for the prosecution, the absence of a murder weapon at the scene and the lack of a clear motive could strengthen any defense.
Having a defendant who is at least ostensibly an expert in the criminal justice system does add an additional layer. It will be really interesting to see if the prosecution would use that to argue he knew exactly what he was doing.
Meanwhile, the college community is still recovering from the shocking loss. Last weekend, the University of Idaho awarded posthumous degrees to the seniors, Mogan and Gonzalez.
What do you hope will happen?
That he will be put to death. Like an animal, like he is.
It is unlikely that Kohberger will be offered a plea deal today. Of course, there is many details that we hope to learn from the case, but one thing that we're hearing from experts is that the trial will not begin for at least 6 months to even a year. So a long road ahead for those families. Nate.
You're right about that, Lilia. Thank you. Ahead, Brittany Grant.